administration for the purpose to discuss and possibly pass ordinance number 79/2022. Before we get started, Councilman Lombardi, I'm going to send it to you.
Thank you, President Eisner. I'd just like to take a moment to honor Nancy Halter, who passed away yesterday. We would like to just recognize her and take a moment of silence. Nancy has served on this council 2 times, once as Ward 3 council person and once as council at large. Nancy was very involved with her community and cared very deeply about Massillon, and she will be missed. I consider her a good friend as well as a mentor. Can we just have a moment? Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilman Lombardi. Also, on behalf of council, we'd like to offer our condolences to Mayor Kathy Kazero for the loss of her mother-in-law. Okay, proceeding, roll call.
Creamer.
President.
Gregg.
Here.
Harvard Smith.
Here.
Hearn King.
Here.
Lewis. Lombardi.
Here.
Slutes.
Here.
Sneed.
Here.
And Barrett.
Present.
Roll call of 8 present.
Thank you, Madam Council. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Who's your pro temp? Council?
I'm pro tem. He's fine.
Okay. Would like to excuse Councilman Lewis.
I make a motion to excuse Councilman Lewis.
Seconded by Councilman Gregg. Roll call.
Gregg.
Yes.
Harvard Smith.
Yes.
Hearn King.
Yes.
Lombardi.
Yes.
Slutes.
Yes.
Sneed.
Yes.
Barrett.
Yes.
And Creamer.
Yes.
8 yes to excuse Councilman Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Lewis has been excused. We also have attendance with the following city officials.
Safety Service Director Barb Sylvester.
Present.
Law Director Justin Richard.
Present.
Assistant Law Director Edwin Mack.
Present.
Economic Development Director David Maley.
Present.
And Chief Counsel Bill Bartos.
Present.
You were hiding behind Julie. Is there anyone else from administration I might have missed? That's it, Madam President.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. We are ready for remarks of delegations and citizens to the matter on the agenda. If anyone in the audience would like to come forward and speak on the topic being discussed tonight, please come forward, state your name, address, and talk if you wish to discuss. And please send your comments to 1 minute. Seeing none, we'll move into ordinance number 79/2022.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or the director of public service and safety of the city of Massillon, Ohio, to enter into a commercial real estate purchase agreement with Campbell Oil Company for the purchase of parcel number 614431 and 601521, further known as 611 Erie Street South, Massillon, Ohio. Further authorizing the mayor and/or the director of public service and safety of the city of Massillon, Ohio, to enter into an escrow agreement with Alpha Land Title Agency Incorporated, and to take all other actions necessary to facilitate said purchase. Also authorizing the relocation of the Massillon City Health Department and declaring the same to be an emergency. Finance. I didn't know who's handling it. Mr. Gregg.
Councilman Gregg.
Thank you, Madam President. As it states, this is legislation requesting the availability to purchase property for the relocation of Massillon City Health Department. Who from administration would like to come speak to us regarding this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming up here.
Chairman of the Council, this is for property on 611 Erie You see that there's the commercial real estate purchase agreement that would be with the seller. There's also the escrow agreement that's with the Alpha Land Title Agency, Inc. That was the escrow agent that we've chosen, the city's chosen Mr. Mack, worked with the seller, and we chose that escrow agent. In commercial deals such as this, there's often an escrow company where when contingencies are in place, which Mr. Mack can discuss, there's a third party that will hold funds to ensure that certain contingencies are met before final payment is made. And then also you see in section 3 that there's that final clause that upon successful completion of the purchase, once again, many contingencies must be met at the protection of the city, as Mr. Mack will discuss in further detail, before that purchase is finalized. And then once that does occur, City Council is authorizing the move of the health department into this facility. So you have one subject here, the move of the health department, but being that this is a speed of business transaction, it's a commercial transaction, we do have a number of items on the agenda. So Mr. Mack, now can get into the particulars of those items if you'd like. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mack.
Council President, Chairman, members of council. I'll pick off right where Chief Counsel Bartos left off, and is this. When a city is acquiring commercial property for municipal purposes, it must act with the speed of business. And so that's why we're here during the special meeting, and that's why it's going to be our opinion, our legal recommendation that the council strongly consider passage of this ordinance. The revised code gives cities, City of Massillon, two important tools when considering an acquisition of commercial property. The first tool is the ability to go into executive session and discuss the terms of the potential transaction confidentially among the body, with the administration, and with their council. And we've already done that. The second tool, and the tool that we're asking you to use tonight, is the ability to suspend the normal statutory readings and to pass the ordinance on first reading during the special meeting with emergency legislation provisions included. And the reason is because just when you make an offer to purchase a residential home property, offers to purchase real estate are only valid for a finite, very limited period of time. With the direction you provided us, we're able to secure, since our office was provided the signature page of the seller in escrow, and I have that with me here today, that provided this body authorizing this ordinance tonight, we have a valid binding contract. If the ordinance is not passed tonight, then, so to speak, the offer expires, and then we will be in a position to answer. So I'll speak to that in a little bit more detail if we can. In order to then use that second tool that's given to us by the General Assembly, 7 members who are here tonight must vote in favor of suspending statutory rules and ultimately to adopt the ordinance. I think we have 8 members here, and if more than one member were to vote in the negative, then the ordinance wouldn't pass, and the contract you have in front of you would not be binding, wouldn't be capable of acceptance by the City of Massillon, certainly not tonight, whether in terms of the right now. No. So why is it this department's opinion that certainly we understand it's your body's prerogative to determine the policy of the city, but why do we have a legal opinion recommending this passage? The health department received the renewal of its accreditation in March of this year, so it's now fully accredited municipal health department. And under the Ohio Revised Code, the legislature of the municipality, this body, has to provide suitable accommodations for the health department. I'd like to certainly echo the comments that Director Maley made concerning the existing facilities. There are very, very serious questions as to whether the current space where the health department is located satisfies statutory requirements to provide suitable accommodations. This facility lacks ADA accessibility. Under the law, that's the responsibility of both the owner and the tenant. There are also serious issues in that facility concerning security and the maintenance of records required to be confidential. I've gone through that facility with my own eyes in preparation not pass this ordinance this evening, then the contract that we have in front of you is not capable of being accepted by the city. So we could, re-engage the seller and see if they're willing to come to another agreement, or provide us another opportunity to have a binding contract. That would certainly be within their prerogative. We have no assurances or guarantees that they would be willing to do it. It was a point of negotiation between myself and the attorneys for the seller, Kiewel Oil, with respect to the provisions that we have a live offer capable of being acceptance. It was critically important to us that we had that locked in from the first moment it became public, which was on May 25th, when it was presented to and approved by the health board through this council's meeting. And the reason why a seller is reluctant to have a binding potential obligation out there is because they can't sell to anybody else. This property is currently being marketed by Illinois Spring, and they certainly don't want to tie it up for obvious reasons. Just so we can make an offer on a home. You don't want, if you're the seller, you don't want your home locked up for an extended period of time. So if this ordinance does not pass, then we do not know whether the seller will be willing to engage us again. If this ordinance does not pass, is the current space an option for continued operations? I believe, and this is all preliminary, I believe our department's opinion will be no, that we cannot continue to maintain operations in that building. In addition to the ADA accessibility issues, in addition to security issues, there are substantial First Amendment church and state issues that are raised. In addition to that, there is a deed restriction on the current property that restricts the use of that property to religious purposes only. There are serious, serious questions for continuing operations in that facility. With that being the case, if the contract that's before you now is no longer available, if the current space is not tenable, the only third option would be to find a suitable space. It could exist. We've not been presented with any other alternatives from the administration. We're on due diligence preparing for tonight. In our prior executive session discussions, there are no commercial spaces that we're aware of that are currently being marketed commercially that can be suitable for the department's needs. So our legal opinion, the zoo facility does satisfy the statutory requirement to provide suitable accommodations for the health department, and that if it does not pass this evening, then there's a lot of uncertainty as to how we satisfy that obligation. Part of that, doing the analysis on your behalf as to whether this complies with the statute, we looked at the purchase price and the actual terms, because we were directly responsible with myself, chief counsel, and the law director, with Director Maley, trying to get the best thing we possibly can for the city. And I was personally one person from our office dealing with the attorney for the seller, the attorney being Justin Drago of Buckingham. Our purchase price is $325,000, which is $40, 24 cents a square foot. We compared that with the current appraised value of this parcel, which is $441,000, or 54 cents per square foot. So our purchase price is 14 cents lower than the appraised value. And we also did look at some available comparables within the city that were listed in those two comparables. They're $94 per square foot and $63 per square foot. So based on that information alone, certainly we developed a part of comfort in making the recommendation to this body. With respect to any concerns about passing this during this meeting on first reading and not letting this go the full legislative process that we're all used to, that is something that would be essential to doing this deal in any sophisticated acquisition of commercial property. Because the longer that we have the city's interest expressed without a binding contract, the price of commercial real estate goes up. The city would be at risk when looking for other suitable properties of other investors coming in, making offers, securing options to buy buildings, and then jacking the price up on the city. By keeping this, I can tell you this body's doing an excellent job for our discussions. We have kept this exactly as we should through our executive sessions until the moment our office received their signature page and it was public, vis-a-vis the health department meeting, and then the Independence article was published. Every T has been crossed, every I has been dotted. Now, the reason why we have 3 readings, of course, is because we want the insight of the public. If someone knows something about this property, or boundary encroachments, or who knows what, we want to know that, obviously. And we would welcome that information, because after this contract's effectuated, that's when our due diligence process begins. If through in this process we let by law permit, if there's anything in the title, anything in the structure, whether through our own independent experts that we're bringing on board, or through something that's brought to our attention by the public, we want to know. And we can walk away if it's something that would affect the title, structure, the building, etc. Our preliminary due diligence process has been very favorable. Our internal people from the city of Massillon have gone through it. I viewed the structure. There's certainly enough for us to see before you today and say this is something from a policy perspective that's worth strongly considering. That due diligence period through process of negotiations has been extended to October of this year. That's favorable because while we're ultimately going to have to pay for the inspections that we do, while the phase 1 environmental is performed, a comprehensive commercial building inspection that will be performed, and also a comprehensive title that will be performed in order to protect the city, because we know it. Once we go through this, provided this body approves it, we believe that level of due diligence is certainly warranted in this case. The actual negotiations as to whether, what we, certain members have articulated, are we sure this is the best price? Did we get the most favorable terms? I believe the answer is yes. I can say that based on my last review, and I've since been in the lead in doing those negotiations. These are the most favorable terms they're willing to agree to. You guys, would they be willing to agree to different terms in a month, 2 months? Who knows? Until the future. But literally $5,000 quid pro quo offer, requesting that they accept the lower prices based on the direction you gave us. This is it. At the end of the day, the law permits belief in the reason why this is a policy decision, is a company liability, is because this gives the city certainty. There's a business issue the city has to deal with. This business issue is its health department. There are serious problems with business matters that have to be navigated. This is a solution that provides this body passes it, provides 7 members of there that provides certainty now. Other alternative solutions could happen, we don't know. But there's risk in going that way. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Not ready?
I thought I misheard you at the beginning, but you again said 7 have to vote?
Yes, 7 have to vote, 2 favors, suspend the rules.
To suspend the rules, not for passage. Okay.
Excuse me. 6 to pass.
6 to pass, okay.
7 to suspend.
Thank you.
Okay. Happy to answer any questions. Yes.
It's not so much a question to you, but when were you notified and when was the public notified?
The public would have been notified in the article that appeared on May 25th in that Massillon Independent. That was when the health board approved the purchase agreement that you have. Now, there would have been a public notice that would have gone out before that, 24 hours for public records laws. But that article, this wholesale explains, this is the deal, here's the amounts, here's the property, it's going to be in front of this body for a special meeting this evening for final approval.
Councilman LaFrege? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
So
Darrell.
that was Wednesday of last week, and we have a holiday weekend. Do you think that's sufficient notice? Because my concern is that I want transparency and public knowledge. They have the opportunity to present questions and like you suggested, any issues that may be deleterious to our decisions. So I'm just concerned that you really feel that that's enough time.
I think that tension is acute whenever you're purchasing a commercial property. But if we approach oil or any seller business that says, hey, we may want to enter into a contract with you, we may not, we'll let you know in a month and a half. By the way, make sure that property is available, so if we do decide to do it, there's not going to be any other buyers. We can't do any kind of deal that way. If it's a property that's not being marketed something's brought up, it's valuable, we can then use that as part of our due diligence if we determine it. But in order to have a binding contract, it expires by its own terms tomorrow. So without this body's approval by tomorrow, there will not be a binding contract, and we can re-engage the sellers. The sellers could say, okay, this one, I'm totally skeptical, we had no idea what this could say, because they were clear, we don't want this hanging out there, we want to know. They could say yes for $10,000 more, they could say, actually, thank you for putting this in the newspaper articles because it's generated interest and we have another suitor. Nothing that can be predicted with certainty. The only thing that brings certainty is passage of seed.
Councilman Lombardi?
Thank you, President Eisner. I just need to go on record as saying when negotiating a contract, administration and the law department knows the rules of this council. And I think that should have been worked in to at least give us time to give one reading so the public could weigh in on it. This is taxpayer money we are spending. It does not belong to the city. And I believe us passing this tonight, suspending the rules and passing this tonight, takes away the voice of the public. And I'm not willing to do that. So I will not be voting to suspend the rules. And I urge any council member here to be the same, to do the same. You represent the taxpayers of this city, and do not let their voice be robbed from them. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Madam President. I understand we don't want to tie up the seller for months at a time. We have at least kick this back for at least a couple of weeks. Because I know that if I was the seller of a commercial property and I was approached with, hey, can we delay this just for 2 weeks or so, just to get public opinion, I'd be more than willing to work that.
Sure, they might say that's fine, they may not. When we discussed the execution process, that was a point that we certainly brought up, and we were sensitive to that issue. This was the extent that they were willing to allow themselves to be legally bound going into the future. So if it fails, maybe they'll be willing to do something later, 2 more weeks, how many readings, who knows? I don't know the answer to that because I can't see the future. The only thing I can say with certainty is that voting yes tonight creates a binding agreement.
Anyone else? Councilman Barrett?
Thank you, Madam President. Just as a matter of clarification, it sounded like you mentioned before that even after acceptance, if we find something that is negative, let's just leave it at negative, on our behalf, whatever it may be, we still have the option to bail.
Yes. Now, for certain things,
Sir,
structure, the condition of the structure, title,
be significant, something significant.
yeah.
Not just, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yes, but if there's a oil and gas lease on there from 1920, in our opinion, we believe, meaning the city, our opinion, if it materially affects the value of the property, we can walk away. That's not necessarily unusual because it's once you get past that October date, it's in the agreement, it's set in stone, then it's bought, unless you've terminated it before. So yeah, I do want to stress that this isn't something that we can never get out of down the road. And if there are issues that we would encourage those issues to be brought to our attention. Hey, I heard the FBI went out there, or whoever went out there because of XYZ thing. We want all of that information because that's part of our due diligence process. But we won't have the ability to prevent them from selling to somebody else, getting other offers, unless we have that binding agreement in place.
Anyone else? Councilman Howard Smith?
I think it would be nice to have it reverberated. When we talked in the executive session, we talked about what we're currently paying for an inadequate building, basically. And we're kind of
numbers of like how much we're paying in rent and what they wanted to increase it to, and what we had to, do you have those, just so it can publicly be told people, I mean, because when you look at that, you really see the benefit of this compared to where we're at, that we have to do something. I thought those were
With,
very,
President Pershing and for the
Yes, you
contractor.
may. Thank you, Mr. Haley.
Yeah, we're looking at about 58% increase from our current lease.
and so our current, when we buy it, are we going to be financing the whole thing and making mortgage payments?
No, we won't, we
Or we will have the funds that we'll be able to just.
have the ARPA dollars.
We'll be able to use the ARPA dollars
Right.
for our whole balance.
Yes.
That's one.
Anyone else? Can you tell us how long this property has been on the market again?
I do not know specifically how long it's been on the market. We actually heard about the property last year. There was a lease that was the tenant in the building. They've been in the building for quite some time, and they have an option in June to pick up the lease for another 2 years. But I've talked to the owner, or the president of the company, they do not intend to pick up the lease. And that's why we actually pursued the building. Because last year was a year and a half still left. I think it's been on the market for about a year. But that lease went as part of the buying too.
Councilman Howard Smith?
This building, I think it's a great building, and it has room for growth, and it will fit our needs and future needs. It actually could possibly have other needs. If it's designated as a health department, is the city allowed to use parts of the building for other purposes if we wanted to?
Yes, for sure, yes. Actually,
Thank you.
yeah. And then we do have additional space for parking and stuff in the rear, which is, Camp Washington may use some of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Gray?
Yes, I have a couple questions and a few remarks before I make a motion, as when other council members have an opportunity to take questions or comments. So my first question is, the June 1st date tomorrow, in the agreement under the conditions, whose request was that? Was that the city's request or the seller's request?
Both.
Whose agreement then?
Right, yes. It was when we first engaged them, meaning, can we hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah, we and myself engaged the sellers immediately thereafter from our executive session, kind of using that as the basis of the structure of the deal. The original structure was, that would be the outer end. We'll still have a binding agreement that we can accept. We'll have their signature. Before that, theoretically, that they could be moved. That was actually an issue of pushback from the seller. They would not allow us to present their signature page to the public as part of this ordinance. They wanted our office to hold it in escrow and to keep it very limited, where there was this possible window where a binding contract could be created. The rationale that was articulated was that they didn't want to cause confusion in the marketplace with their signature page floating around there, et cetera, et cetera. But we're actually, meaning the law department, we're not allowed to release their signature page until this body passes the ordinance.
So
Is that your question?
I think so. But my follow-up to that would be, so would June 8th not have been possible?
Sure.
Another week to give us a chance to have a reading?
Before the definitive terms were agreed to, yes. Before their signature page was received, yes, that all would be possible. I mean, anything would be possible, meaning August 31 would be possible. But once those definitive terms are arrived at, and we're trying to get the structure to put before you, there is nothing else that's possible at this moment that would result in a binding agreement. Anything else would require us, we wouldn't have a binding contract as of tomorrow, but we would have to re-engage the seller to create a new agreement with different timelines.
I may have misunderstood. I heard you earlier say something like that a facility such as this, as an example, is necessary for the health department to have full accreditation.
No, the health department's already received their full
That's
accreditation.
what I wanted to make sure, that to say they weren't fully accredited at this point.
Yeah, they are, yes. That's irrespective of this transaction.
Okay, and that's not something that can change?
It's for 5 years. I don't know whether it can change. I'm sure, of course, I'm sure it could for some reason. But we're not aware of anything, for instance, in the law, being considered by the General Assembly, that could require us to not have a health department any longer, the county to get over with that full accreditation. That a very, very important box has been ticked. Now we have to provide suitable accommodations. If for whatever reason it changes, for instance, and we then have to engage in contract negotiations for the county to provide these services, let's assume the county is willing to agree for whatever fee they would charge us, what then happens to that building? Its use would not be restricted just to the health department versus something. The city can do whatever it wants with it, because it'll be the city of Massillon that'll be the title owner of this property, not the department.
So if this does not pass this evening and the health department is forced to remain where they are, incur the costs and so forth, and felt it's been the opinion of the city that that building is now no longer adequate, could that cause the health department to lose their accreditation?
You could bring risk of, for instance, taxpayer suits, we have to sue, we have to pay attorneys, things of that nature. It's bad, certainly very bad, but whether it would risk their accreditation, I don't know.
Well, so my thoughts on this are that I agree with Councilman Barty that it's definitely not ideal that we didn't have more time to have this in front of the public for comments and input into this decision. That being said, I'm familiar with the building and the property. I think that this is an excellent opportunity for the city going forward and for the city health department. And I feel like, yes, we prefer to have citizens input because it is taxpayer money, although this is ARPA funds, so it's not actually City of Massillon taxpayer money. Am I correct? It's a grant we received from the federal government, but still we need to be good stewards of that money. And I think I look at it from the flip side that if we don't go forward with this opportunity, we may cost the City of Massillon much more money in the long run and other difficulties for the health department that we could avoid. So while I'm not happy that we have this short a time, I think we could have easily had at least another week to consider the terms or to have in front of the citizens. I'm afraid the downside of not going forward with this opportunity is too great, and so I support moving forward. I will make a motion to suspend the rules. Did you have another comment, Mr. Pierre?
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Maybe just a reiteration or clarification. The health department, in one respect, has a certain amount of jeopardy involved now because if their current space comes into question for legal matters, the city then is open to a variety of suits. And secondly, as elected bodies, elected personnel through this body, we are the voice of our constituents, and sometimes it sounds like we just have to pull them up and go for it.
Yeah, I think there's a strong legal basis for both of those comments, Councilman.
Anyone else? Councilman Gray.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we, before I'm going to state, I'm going to make this motion, and if we get a second, we'll vote on it. I'm just stating, council can vote their conscience as always. But I'd like at this point to make a motion that we suspend the rules requiring 3 readings and bring ordinance number 79/2022 forward for a vote.
Second by Councilman Barrett. Roll call for suspension.
Harvard Smith,
Yes.
Herm Kane,
No.
Lombardi,
No.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneed,
No.
Barrett,
Doesn't matter, I guess, but no.
Kramer,
Yes. Yes.
and Gray.
Yes.
That would be 4 no and 3 yes for suspension. You can't go forward. That would be 4 no and 3 yes for suspension. So that's not.
There's 8 of us. I think it's 4 and 4.
Oh, Harvey Smith, you voted yes?
I voted yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's a tie of 8 yes and 8 no.
4 and 4.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 4 yes, 4 no, with a tie.
Ordinance number 79, 2022 does not